Hello and welcome everyone to Witch Bitch, where we talk the real tea. And today we have Morgan on the show once again, which is always so exciting. Today we're talking about becoming light bringers. That was the topic that came to me today, because I think, this time on planet Earth can be pretty dark for some people. I know it's been pretty dark for me. And I think it's really important to talk about how we have to be our own light bringers, our own saviors, in a sense, instead of relying on external things to bring that to us. So, yeah, I just thought no one better to talk to about this than Morgan. And obviously, we'll talk about whatever comes from this starting point. There's no linear way of having this conversation. It's just free flowing and seeing what comes up.
Mm.
Cool, I like it. I mean, your mum sent me that message that you got like a download that's what we were going to do, and I'm like, oh, I don't know what this is going to be, but
Yes.
something, yeah, okay, and but completely open to it as well. But something you just said, and as you were talking, it was like I was seeing what was actually going on. We had to shut down from the old. We actually had to come into ourselves and understand that everything comes from within. But it
Mm.
feels like we're actually shifting. So we shut down our 3D relationships or the programs of those relationships. And I feel like we're about to step into, or we're currently stepping into, okay, there's code everywhere. I know that it comes from within, but I think we're stepping into where are we going to be picking up code from others now in the frequencies that we want. So we had to shut down for a reset our old relationships, our old ways of communication, those sorts of things. And now we're going to actually start tuning into the ping, the ting, ting, ting. That was code. That was code. This is what I'm, and part of that also comes with our expanded abilities to listen, to be in stillness, to be in solitude. We needed to go through that, and we still probably need to go through that to start to hear ourselves. And then we get it, and then the gift comes from another person and what they say, and seeing the validated code. So
Yeah.
we experience it, then we observe it, or we observe it and then we experience it.
Yeah, that's been my experience. 100% Morgan, that I go through the feeling and the feeling brings up old stuff, or I remember, oh, this is that feeling from when this happened to me, or when I saw that going on, or whatever. The feeling comes up, and then I don't freak out anymore. I used to freak out and try and shut it down, but I don't do that anymore. Now I try and take an observer role, and I kind of go, oh, that's interesting. There it is again. And that squeezing feeling I was telling you about.
Yep.
And it's not pleasant when it's happening, but then I'll kind of go, okay, just observe it, see where it's coming from. And then something in my life will answer that, or will come to me. Someone, like you just said, will say something. I'll see, I don't know, in a movie or something, or Juliet will trigger something, it will come from somewhere. And then I go, oh, that's it. And it resonates deeply. And then it helps me to unpack it or put it to bed or whatever I need to do with it at the time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm experiencing what you're talking about
Yeah.
100%.
You think about when somebody talks, what happens? The old energy will have us ignite that symbol, that vision, that dream, look, whatever way it comes in
Yeah.
ourselves. And we think as humans, the best, most powerful thing to do is blurt out our version of it. But in missing that trigger, that space, and just sitting with, wow, I actually remember that code, and I didn't grasp it back then, but now I'm going to grasp it myself, which then makes it we don't have to share our story. We can sit in the stillness and the experience of the story rerunning in our own mind, and accept the coding that we actually created back then in that old story. But humans like to go, yes, oh my God, I had this, da, da, da. And in that excessive chatter, they miss that trigger, that
Right.
opportunity for the space to accept the coding that is already within us. We've had the experience. We didn't understand what it was. When somebody else shares an experience that we can relate to and we go, blah, 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 we miss it by that excessive chatter. We miss the gift.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's very easy to get caught up in you're human because when you're experiencing hard things, you know, a hard emotion or you know, something dense, that also tends to bring you closer to your human as well, like your ego mind and your human mind. And it's easier when you're experiencing something hard to latch onto the ego, like we're talking about, because we are in those lower places. Um, yeah, so it's like I think that's why it's so important to find a way to remind ourselves in the dark, deep moments that it's not the story that we're telling ourselves. And that's really what being a light bringer is bringing that light to those moments for ourselves to remind us, oh, this feeling isn't who I am. This feeling isn't what I'm telling myself it means. It's something completely different. And yeah, that's been what I've been trying to figure out because I'm very puffy today. I got my wisdom teeth taken out Monday, so I've been healing and I'm very like chipmunk today. But throughout my healing, there's been a lot of stuff come up for me, like a lot of really dense, hard emotions that I haven't experienced in a long time, and just it's been a very unique experience being this spiritual because, you know, I've been figuring out that balance between the 3D medical system,
The real denseness of
the
it.
real denseness of that sort of aspect, and also taking charge of my own healing at the same time. Um, and it's caused this like big turmoil of like not knowing where I stand and like what is my belief, because it's not something that fits into the spiritual box or the medical 3D box either, you know.
Yeah, it's
Um,
completely unique.
yeah, so it's been breaking down a lot of fear, a lot of story that I've been telling myself, like you're talking about. And a lot of the time, all I can do is just like watch a movie or get out of it. That's like my way of getting out of it is by watching a show or a movie or something like
To
that.
take a break from the
Yeah,
story.
to like take me out of my emotions because, you know, when I watch something, it's like I'm now in that story. I'm not in whatever story I'm making up for myself. So yeah, I've been trying to navigate exactly what you're talking about, Morgan, and trying to figure out ways to remind myself down in the deep dark cave, in the deep dark story, that it's not true. And I think that's how so many people get lost. How so many people don't have faith anymore, you know, and who say things, you know, it's such a big story in people today. I talk to so many people my age who just say, oh, well, the planet's going to, you know, it's not going to be around for much longer. We're all going to die. So what's the use? What's the point anyway? And that's like a huge story in my generation. And yeah, I think that's like an aspect of what you're saying is like that deep dark story that is pushed on us that we choose to believe and interpret in our own way, because you know when you're told that story of doom and gloom as a young person, you now have an excuse to do anything that you want.
Yes.
You know, like, oh well, in 10 years what's the point, so let's just do this anyway. And you know, the story is wrong, but I guess their mindset about it might not be too.
Well, it's not wrong, it's just not true.
Well, yeah, the story, that doom and gloom story, is not true, and you know that aspect comes in whatever way for each person. You know, maybe it's not, you know, about the planet, maybe it's about something else. You know, but I think the reason there's the way to uncover the lesson is by listening to the story that we're telling ourselves, because isn't that just an excuse to do what you want? I mean, like, if we're going to use the example of, oh, you know, life is done anyway, so let's just do it because who cares? In 10
But a lot
years.
of people don't. I don't think a lot of people are self-aware enough to know that that's the benefit of what they're telling themselves. Like, they're getting that benefit out of
Yeah.
it, and so they're not, like, it's like a cop out kind of. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They're not self-aware enough to know that that's the reason they're doing it.
Yeah, so I guess limbo, lost in. How do you? Yeah, so I think what I wanted to ask you through that rant, sorry, Morgan, is in those moments of telling yourself story, how do you personally bring yourself out of that?
Right. Great question. I love that question, Juliet. So the story's not real, but the energy of the story is, and the energy of the story is our creation. So the quicker we can look at the story and condense it down, and find the bottom line program, the energy was betrayal or jealousy. The energy was, you bring that story down to one word. This story that I'm attached to is all about betrayal, for example. Then you know what you're dealing with in yourself. And then, you know, as soon as you clear that and you come down to, oh, well, it's about betrayal. How have I betrayed myself? How do I betray others? Where was I betrayed? And neutralize all those 3 points. Then the story loses its power and doesn't have to be recreated into the future. So the stories aren't real, but the energy is. So when we take charge of our own energy, our own creation, then we can rewrite it so we don't have to have repeated experiences. Did that
Yeah.
answer
That's
your question,
beautifully explained.
Juliet?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that definitely
That's
makes a lot of
beautifully
sense.
explained. So succinct and beautifully explained. Like, for
And-
such a huge problem in so many people's lives, to be able to just
Yeah, and that's
explain
not just
what.
with a story, that's with a dream, a symbol, an experience. Like, we can bring everything down into what is the 0 point here, the bottom line, the energy. And once we find that, then we can clear that in ourselves. My laptop's about to go flat. I've actually forgotten. I just need to run around and plug it in.
Yeah, go for it.
Sorry.
No worries.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think what she's saying.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. My cheeks are so round.
They're a lot less round today than they were.
Yeah.
Mm.
I think my face probably swelled up to twice the size on the bottom half for a couple of days there.
Mhm. How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling a lot better. Yeah. Still
Thank you.
a bit
Sorry.
sore. No, it's fine.
Welcome back.
Sorry about that.
That's
You
all
think
right.
you get all organised and you always forget something. Oh, there's an old story.
Yeah.
I always forget something, but yeah.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah, so tell me more about, you know, the energies of the planet right now, because you're very, like, I read some of the stuff that you put on Facebook, and Morgan, you're very, very in tune, and, like, as we just saw, you put very complex things into something understandable. So to all the people watching, what is your thesis on the planet today and what's going on?
Ooh, okay. Well, I was told a few years ago that we were going to rewrite and expand the Tesla frequency of the 369, which is the application of love. It's actually the coding of love, that Tesla discovered it, and love is the true power to create everything and anything. So I understood that last year was like going through the densest parts of, you know, the interference in love. And we saw, you know, I went through initiations early last year myself, and then I saw Todd really go through them from July, August, September. And we're actually redoing that now. So we're going through this spiral and we're actually clearing everything out that does not align with love. And I was told that by the end of September, those three parts will be fully anchored. And then from December, we'll start practicing this new frequency of love, creating with it, manifesting with it, living it, having it into our relationships, all that sort of stuff. So the feminine actually anchored in March this year. In June, we're going to anchor the golden child aspect. And the golden child aspect is the best parts of the masculine, the best parts of the feminine that actually create a third energy. So around the solstice in June this year, we're going to anchor in the golden child. Now, with those two parts anchored in as part of the triad, then it's going to, we're carrying the codes that we're going to become, those two parts will become like a magnet of the masculine to join into that powerful triad energy. Once we hit our own Trinity energy, we hit our Christ consciousness point. So everything we're doing at the moment, every single one of us is clearing out everything and anything that doesn't look like love.
Wow.
Mm.
And that can look like all sorts of different things in people's lives. It can look like chaos. It can look like it's a sort of the visual that I'm getting is kind of gross, but like a big pimple coming to a head, and it's all kind of erupting out all the crap that we've been going through over the past however many years.
Yeah, and when we're seeing this happening in a multi-dimensional level, this first and foremost is happening within ourselves. So our
Yeah.
feminine is anchored. We're on the verge of anchoring in that golden child part, which is like the voice of God. It's the essence of God. It's the doorway to source. And then the final part will be the masculine then aligning with all of it. And we become multi-dimensional cosmic beings. And every time I look at it, I'm being shown a staircase. Like we're taking a step at a time. Like I took a step on Wednesday, and Todd's just taken a step today. Like it's like if you are committed to unconditional love, which includes freedom and letting go, you're automatically going to align with these new codes. But we're raising the frequency of love across the planet, and that's our superpower.
Wow, that's amazing. Ooh, that's amazing.
Yeah, very
So
exciting.
what do you think that's going to feel like for people? What's the feeling people are going to start? Is it the feeling of love?
No, actually,
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I've actually found this so confusing because it's so different to what I thought love is. It is so different. It's actually detachment, freedom, no resistance to anything that's going on, zero judgment of everything that's going on, and therefore no more projection of the old codes. So it's
Right.
actually looking opposite. I sent a message to Todd about 2 weeks ago. I said, God, never before have I felt more detached from you, but at the same time, never before have I felt so much unconditional love. It's like we're allowing ourselves to work this out, to recode ourselves, to rebirth ourselves, to reparent ourselves into being superhumans, a higher frequency human.
Yeah.
It's really it's actually working in the opposite. Sometimes I feel empty. It's like, God, I'm not thinking about them. I'm not doing any of my old things anymore. I'm not missing this person. I'm not pining after them. I just am. So does it feel like love? No, it doesn't feel anything like what I
I
thought love was at all.
Yeah,
Yes.
I agree with what you're
Yeah.
saying. I've been going through the same thing, and it's very dissociative when you're not fully understanding, because you still have your ego, you still have, your human mind telling you that you should be feeling this way, and like, why am I not feeling this way? I should be feeling this way.
Which is the old program.
Yeah, but it's very, I've been going through that, like very detached from story, very detached from basically anything pulling me down to earth. Like I'm just kind of and I don't think it's a bad thing. I just think, because it allows me an observer point of view about life, you know, because whenever I am really sad or in my own cave of pain and sadness, like I have been recently with everything, like yeah, it allows me this position of just viewing myself and viewing the world, and yeah, and just realizing that it's all going to be okay. And you know, it's been a really helpful tool for me recently, because it allows me to see from far away.
The detachment you're talking
Yeah,
about.
the detachment, and that yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're actually activating your own inner golden child that gives you a whole new perspective.
Yeah.
And we step into the observer point of view when we've got that part of our sacred geometry operational. It's actually working now. We get to look at 2 or 3 different experiences and decipher for ourselves which one we're going to align with.
Yes. Because that's something that I've always pondered on, is being in alignment with myself. So the feelings that I'm having and the judgments that I'm making and the choices that I'm making, trying to always choose the things that I feel are right for me. I was like, okay, so how am I choosing love when I'm choosing that? And what I'm realizing more and more as I walk the path is that when I choose myself, that automatically chooses love. Because what we're told love is, that sacrifice, hard work, love is painful, love is, you know, that's all the codependent parts of love. That's the codependent style of love. What we see in the movies, what we're told as children, you know, Cinderella, all of that stuff, is that codependent style of love. But what I'm starting to discover really, is that it's constantly choosing yourself and constantly doing things that feel good for yourself, which then radiates out to the rest of the world. And it's so easy to think to yourself, I'm being selfish by doing that. Like, that's the old narrative. I'm being selfish, particularly for women. When I'm choosing myself, or when I'm doing the things that I want to do, I'm being, you know, I'm being selfish, I'm being hard, or I'm not taking into consideration how everybody else is feeling. But that's exactly what I'm doing when I choose myself. I am considering other people, because it's like this symbiotic relationship of giving to the self, when then you can give to others, and then they see you giving to yourself, which gives them permission to give to themselves.
Yeah.
That's
And
how
you're
it
actually,
works.
yeah, you're actually activating the code within yourself, choosing
Yeah.
yourself. And what love is, I've found this umbrella of, you know, energies underneath love. We've called it love, but when you really align with love, you're aligning with reverence for yourself, self-respect, self-worth, self-value, self-trust. Like, all of these stuff gets activated in self, which then sends out a signal into your external of that experience. So we
Yeah.
stop. We're lessening these ideas or concepts of codependence, people pleasing, all that sort of stuff drops away. You're 100% right, Claudia. Every time we pick ourselves, we're actually reprogramming ourselves and sending out a signal to our whole field of, this is what love looks like. I'm choosing myself because I'm nurturing myself, I'm respecting myself, I'm trusting myself, I'm honouring myself. And yeah, it gets a little bit tricky as you start letting these break down, especially in relationships and family, because we're
Yes.
so used to those codependent frequencies.
Yeah. So true. I love this conversation. It's amazing, because these are the things that I've been feeling, and pondering on, and kind of like those old programs you're talking about of guilt, people pleasing, you know, all of those stories that we tell ourselves when we choose ourselves that we're doing the wrong thing, or that, you know, you stop and you have doubt. Those come up a lot for me, a lot. Like, you know, family comes first, particularly for someone like me. My dad was Italian, so, you know, the family unit is like you give. That's how you love. You just keep giving. I mean, his mother was like that.
Yeah.
And it feels it feels out of character, feels strange to give to the self and to put yourself first. It doesn't feel traditional. You know, it wasn't modeled to me in my past. So doing that now and choosing that now, it's a new path and it feels different. It feels strange. But knowing, being able to continue walking that path, knowing that I'm choosing the right thing for myself, that's what keeps me going.
Yeah, and the trick of this, the best part of this is when we can get over that and say, no, I'm activating a new code in myself that this is now going to be available for my loved ones.
Yeah,
It's actually now available. Every time you change something within your own DNA, it automatically goes to your children.
yeah,
It automatically gets changed in your children if they're open to it. If they've got programs that are going to block that down, then it won't happen. But every time you change your DNA, it changes for your children. It changes for your whole family.
yeah, right.
So we are here to live, and this is the other thing that I notice happening. You know, that I'm really feeling that's going on at the moment is becoming down to the individual, service to self, aligning with oneness in self. There's this automatic thing that you're automatically becoming service to others and oneness with others at the same time. So we're the drop and the ocean at the same time, and this is the gift of that trinified energy. You know, when all three parts come, this is how we will wake up in the mornings and know that every single thing that we do all day, every day, if we're serving ourselves in that truth and unconditional love, is also for humanity.
Yeah. I have to keep telling myself that. I'm gonna have a sign on my wall, I think, so I see that when I wake up in the morning to remind myself each step of the day when I'm feeling uncomfortable, when I'm feeling like I'm going against the grain. Because that's the thing in society, when you're doing that, when you're choosing yourself in each moment, you're going against the grain because we're told, I mean, it's on the television, like we're told, do it for the greater good, you know, put yourself at the back of the line for the greater good. Take this, you know, medicine for the greater good of society. Do it for your grandparents, do it for the sick and the needy and that sort of thing. It's like this manipulation is constantly running in the background. So when you're choosing yourself, when you're saying, actually, no, that doesn't feel right for me, I want to stand up and say no because that's what's right for me. It's hard. It's so difficult to go against that flow that you see happening, that fake flow, the fake flow that you see happening, and you think, oh, well, everybody's doing it, so I'm going to go and do it because that's the right thing to do. That's what I want to wake up thinking every day is, no, choosing to stand up and do what's right for yourself is choosing love.
Yeah.
Even when it doesn't feel that way in the moment because of the fake flow that you're feeling, tapping into something new, tapping into that energy of the Christed energy that you're talking about, the golden child creation energy, is we're creating something new, something that feels totally different.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, for you, when I'm in that space, if something gets very, very tricky, I allow it to come down to what I was saying to Julia. Forget the story. Let's find the
Yeah.
bottom energy. And that might be a symbol. It might be a set of spider webs that are entangled. You know, if as soon as you can bring it down to something, you can lift the spider webs off, or you can change the symbol, or you know, there are much, much easier ways to break down. If the human mind gets very complicated and likes to go through the story to find a place of transformation.
So true.
But if you see it, if you bring it down to just pure energy, you know, if the minute you become aware of it, you can see it, you can feel it, you can communicate with it, and you ask it to transform into something new.
Yeah, right. I love that. You can ask it to transform. You can actually ask Yes. That's a light bulb going on in my head there. You can ask because that you don't I never think to myself to ask. I always think that because I'm the one who's choosing, I'm the one who's driving the bus kind of my life, that there's I never stop to think that there's resources there that I can ask for.
Mm.
That's huge. That's a big game changer for me.
Yeah, it's the overthinking and the over-talking is actually one of our defenses. We go into reactive, we go into defense, even with our own mind chatter. If we can shut that mind chatter down and say, well, what does this look like? If I asked you to see what color it is, or does it have a symbol, or is it just a grape on the grape line of my family ancestral, you know, whatever it is, find the grape, or even within your own DNA, find the sequence of codons that you are hooked into and believing is true, and just simply ask that sequence of codons to transform, to
Yeah.
neutralize, so that program isn't active, you know, and recreating, you know, ongoing cycles of the same thing.
That's so powerful. I love that. I'm gonna start doing that one. I'm gonna start doing
And
that.
you know, we can start playing with this for the things that we are aware of to create discomfort, but you can also do the same with the things that we want to bring into our lives. Let's say we wanted to learn Reiki. We can go and spend hundreds of dollars and do a Reiki course, or we can look for a symbol, a morphic field, or the information, the sequence of codons within our DNA, and activate the, you know, the great things that we want for ourselves as well.
Morgan, you've just made me think about what you've just said there. Have you seen a movie called Everything Everywhere All at Once? I think that's what it's called.
I
Have you seen that
tried
movie?
to, I tried to, but it was too busy for me. No,
Mm,
I think I watched it for about 15 or 20 minutes. I'm like, no, I can't. But
it's
I
very
understood. I
fast
understood the
paced.
energy. Yeah.
Yes. But the message in that film, one of the messages in that film is exactly what you're talking about there, is accessing the codons in our DNA, and basically going in and being able to take what we need, because the lead character in that movie, she can access herself in different dimensions,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
and she's able to take the talents of herself from that dimension and use them to create her story.
Yeah, it's like Neo learning
Yeah,
karate or
yeah,
taekwondo. Yeah.
yeah. So what you're talking about there, I think, is known in certain circles of society as being um, as being a possibility, or not a possibility, but being real.
Mm.
Yeah. And the two of you together, you could be doing this together. So if Juliet's saying, I've got this issue, with her mother, they could work out, okay, what is the bottom line energy here? And you as her mother could say, well, does it come up in a colour or a symbol or a program or something like that? I mean, we can start buddying up with each other and helping each other through this. And the less words, the better. The less of this verbal stuff, because that's just a defense, says me, blah, 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 you know, going, says me. But, you know, when we're caught up in stories, all the chatter actually becomes a distraction. You'd be better off to say, where is it in your body, or what color is it, or is there a symbol, or is there a cartoon of it over here, or whatever, so we can actually see the energy of it.
Yeah, how's it showing up for you?
Yeah,
And then use that
to
like a
transform.
talisman. Yeah, it's like using that particular thing that's outside of words to represent the energy that you're feeling, so that you can bring it up and look at it and dissipate it or integrate it or whatever it is that you need to
Absolutely.
do.
Invite it to transform back to a neutral place. You know, energy either operates at a higher frequency or a lower frequency, and we come across our higher and lower frequencies within ourselves. So the minute we can find the frequency of it, and especially via some sort of vision or feeling or whatever, we've become aware of, aha, there it is. And now I'm going to change that, transform that into a higher frequency.
Wow. Yeah. You have such a way with words, Morgan. It's awesome. Being able to explain it like that, like it's so when you're in it, it feels so like trees and in the forest and you can't see anything and you don't know what you're doing and I know I tend to get a little bit overwhelmed and lost, but the way you've just described it there is like giving me back my power.
Mm. So
And
you could say, I feel like I'm in a forest. Show me the light in this forest and follow that line for the light.
yeah,
Something as simple as that can shift you out of, will shift you out of feeling like you're lost in this forest. And aha, there's my path again.
yeah, right. Like a lifeline, like the light at the end of the tunnel, like you're following something and that you're giving yourself the power to move through that feeling and realize that actually I'm the one in control. I'm in control of the energy. I can change the energy. I can transform whatever it is that I need to, which is self love. Giving yourself that gift is loving yourself
Yeah. And
and
also give
transforming it.
yourself permission to become the conscious creator. Like as you start doing this, oh my goodness, I actually created this. And if I created it, I can paint a new picture now and uncreate it.
Yeah,
Mm,
yeah.
yeah.
That's so powerful. That's so powerful. The way it's just for me, like I've heard similar things said over time, like on my journey, I've heard people talking about it in different ways, but the way you've just described it to me is hit home. It's like it's just gone straight in, straight in. And I really understand it now. I really, really get it. It's like a concept that I was aware of and I was forming my understanding around it or being able to implement it fully integrated into me. That just happened. That's just happened for me. So I'm so grateful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think we're really covering the topic
Yeah.
today of becoming our own light bringers, becoming light bringers. Yeah, so you're really giving everyone the tools through
Yeah.
this discussion, which is really great, Morgan.
Yeah. Because this, for me, I think putting a symbol to it, putting a scenario to it in like an imaginary thing of how it feels, putting that picture to it for me and working my way through it that way is something that works well for me. That's something that I can do because when a feeling comes, it does have a certain flavor, if you know what I mean. It has that essence to it that you can't really put into words. So putting pictures around it or a color or, whatever it is, a shape, that really resonates for me because then it has dimension and it's more specific. And then I feel like I could follow that a lot better than just talking about it. Because sometimes you can't, there's no words.
Well, we get lost in the talking and it's really just a distraction. When we start over talking, it's pure distraction. We're actually avoiding what's there. So by translating it into an energy that you can deal with very easily, you've got a much better chance of just, shifting the picture.
How long have you been doing this for yourself? And if so, how long have you been doing it for yourself?
Geez, 23 years. Yeah, about 23 years ago I started doing this. And we're learning it and then writing it and sharing it and, expanding on it. But yeah, absolutely, yeah.
That's why you can explain it so beautifully because you've been doing it for that long and you've got the words, you've found the words that you need to explain it so that someone like me can actually really understand what you're talking about and take it in.
There are other ways to do this too. If we feel like shit, we'd be better off to shut our mouth and not share more of the story, reiterate it and bring it more into our reality. we could sit down and draw a picture of how we feel and let everything get, come up and, be in the picture, and then walk away, come back and paint over it or draw a new picture, or we can bring, so you go there, you translate, you work out your translation things, and then you bring it down into, well, how does this look like physically? How can I bring this into my physical? Because sometimes we get so deep and so heavy, we can't even remember that we've got these skills. But if we just kept it as simple as something like, I'm going to draw how I feel, even if it's a scribbled dark mess.
Yeah.
It's you've put it out there. You've put it out there for opportunity for transformation, and then you'll know exactly when to come in and paint over it or draw a new picture, and that's your transformation. Music,
Yes.
writing, anything.
So depending on what works for you, so you can completely and utterly customize it. If it could be journaling, it could be art, it could be whatever it is, to just get those feelings out.
Yeah, absolutely. And even what Juliet's doing when she's so heavy in it, and it's actually what I do as well, Juliet. I'm going to go and put a Netflix on, thinking this is too much. I can't remember how to get out of here. I'm going to go and put a movie on, not to suppress it, but just to shut my busy mind down.
Yeah.
And the amount of times, like at one point in the movie, you get the, there it is. Boom, there's my answer. We can do it through watching movies too.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I think there's this small aspect in the in like the spiritual community of when, like, I don't know, this rejection of anything 3D, of anything dense or heavy, and I've seen it, and I know that it's there because I myself have judged others and judged myself for using tools like movies and such to help themselves, like, because I used to do it a lot and I would judge myself every single time for it. But there's so much power in shutting off your brain. And it actually, I was listening to someone, I forgot who it was, but they were saying how watching movies and watching shows is actually meditative when you do it in the right, it is meditative in a sense, because you're not thinking in your forward brain, you're not telling yourself a story, it is one form of a kind of meditation. And I think it's a tool that is so useful when used in balance and correctly, and it's here on the planet for a reason. And I think sometimes that reason can be very sort of disservice to humanity, but we can always change the story and flip that, and use it to our own advantage. I've been learning how to do that with everything, because being back in Sydney, it's very a 3D world here, like very much, work is very 3D, home is very 3D, I'm in the city, everything's very dense, and I have to learn how to use these energies to my advantage. And a lot of the time that's by using YouTube to help myself manifest, instead of journaling and writing and focusing on meditation of what I want to create, because sometimes that can be very exhausting, or I'm maybe not in the right place to be in myself. I then watch YouTube videos of people who are living a very similar lifestyle to what I dream myself to live, and it's a really beautiful way to manifest in moments, like, for example, when I travel to and from work, because I'm on a train, I'm in public, so instead of journaling or doing another thing like that, I'm watching these YouTube videos to help myself manifest, and it works. It's so crazy how it works. It's wild. And I think when we use little tools like that may seem, dense or whatever label yeah, they can actually be really helpful and help us elevate ourselves. And that's why I love movies so much.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, they do that for me too, Morgan. What you were saying is that you get an aha moment when you're watching and something will come to you and it'll
Yeah.
be like, oh, there it is. That's what I've been looking for. That's answered my question, or that's the energy that I was, that's where it's come from, or it's helped me to remember something from the past that I was having trouble accessing, or whatever it is. And I love watching films. I love that feeling of getting outside myself, like I'm away from the whole chatter, I'm away from
Yeah.
that complicated web thing that you were talking about in my brain.
It puts the impossible into a physical story. And
Yeah.
it's so fun to, like, that's why superhero movies are my favorite, because I watch them and they're the most fascinating thing to watch, because you can see how the story is real in its own aspect in our reality. Stories like Iron Man and Avengers and everything. It's so cool to see that story and how it's real in today's world, but just in a different way.
Yeah, I like how they make aspects of the self into characters. So they're kind of movies that I really like. Like I see myself a part of myself in each of the characters, and how they all relate to each other, and how they play out the story with each other, and things like that. Like, I love that stuff because it's relatable. And I start to feel like, oh yeah, that's how I feel, and that's how I act in that situation or whatever. And it's like a mirror to yourself, to the way you're living your life, to the decisions that you're making and things like that. And it's all played out on the screen in front of you. And it kind of slows, when I'm watching a film, it slows down time, and I'm able to see things play out. So yeah, I like it too. I try not to judge myself when I'm in those moods, that I just need to, get under the blanket and watch a film.
Yeah. And imagine taking that a step further and saying that superhero, there's an essence or an energy of that, and I'm bringing that into myself and activating my own DNA, so I'm now become that as well.
Yeah, that's another thing that I love about movies and shows, is because when there's a character that I relate to so strongly, or that it's literally a tool to implement parts of yourself that you want to awaken, because something,
It's so true.
yeah, something, you can't recognize something, you can't love something in someone else if you don't have it within you, if you don't recognize it within yourself. Otherwise it just won't register, it won't compute, it won't cross over. So when you love something in a character, in another person, in whatever, just like when you're triggered by something in another person, it's the same rule, like it means that you have it in yourself. And so, when I watch movies and shows and I see these characters that I love, I definitely do that in a sense. I integrate what I love about them into my own being, and I see a change in myself. I do have those micro changes in my psyche, in my body, and I definitely see a difference. And I think that's why it's one of the best things you can do when you're stuck in one place. Watching shows and movies that are going to uplift you and help you and recognize things that you love about yourself. Because if there's any time to integrate love, it's when you're sad and sore and can't really move around much. So yeah, I love that aspect that you just brought up.
Yeah. And we created all of these as code for ourselves. If I'm really flat, one of the biggest things that I'll do is put Australia's Got Talent or America's Got Talent or The Voice or something on. Now, there's no part of me who wants to be a singer, and I do not want to go up on stage. But the energy for me is people people achieving their dreams, going for their dreams. And I sit here and I've got tears rolling down my face and I'm giggling and laughing, and it fixes everything for me. So, you know, we all
Yeah.
have those things. We all have those things. But, you know, even in a movie or these external things that we're watching, they are code. They are energetic codes that we say yes to or no to. And
Yeah.
same with vice versa. You know, those external things that we see that trigger us or piss us off, or the shadow aspects, we can do the same thing too as well, and neutralize the judgment or the projection or the resistance or the attachment to those external things, and use the same process to neutralize those things within ourselves.
Yeah.
So
I think the key is conscious creation. So it's consciously choosing something for a reason to move you from here to here in a way that is works for you. It's like a fingerprint. It's your journey. So consciously choosing things. It's when we are unconscious, in the unconscious, and we are creating from that unconsciousness, that we aren't in control. When we're consciously creating and consciously choosing, that's when we're in control. That's the difference. So if you're watching a film just simply because it's something that somebody told you to do, or you're just feeling down and you just want to escape or whatever, when you're choosing things unconsciously like that and you're not aware of the reasons, that's different. That's the difference between choosing something, watching a movie because you know that it's going to give you this, and this, A, B, C, D. And so you're like, okay, I'm going to create that in this moment because that's what I need. And then you go towards that and you create it for yourself. I think that's the difference.
That's spot on. I would just replace the word control with flow.
Yeah,
So
right.
it's not getting back into control, it's re-entering flow, our own organic state of flow.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said.
Very exciting. Very exciting times.
Yes.
Yeah, it's been, like, I must say, it's been very, there has not been one boring moment for me in the past month.
Yeah.
And it just keeps getting, like, I can really feel it's just going to keep getting more and more and more and more, like, from on my personal journey at least. Yeah, it kind of is one of those things where I'm like, is it over yet? And then another thing happens. It's like, no, it's not over yet. Is it over now? No. Okay. Yeah, I'm definitely ready to go on the fun decline. Yeah. So
Have a little rest.
have a little rest, but it's okay. You know, it's always gratitude is super important in these times, because I would rather this than nothing. You know, I would rather heal myself and be on this journey of awakening than not be on a journey of awakening, even though it means it's a lot harder sometimes.
Yeah, that's the thing. When we're choosing things for ourselves, sometimes that choice is a hard road. Like you know you want something. So like Juliet, she wants to travel. And in order to set herself up for that creation in her life, that road has been bumpy. It's been a little bit bumpy. And she's had to, as an adult now, she's 20, take responsibility for certain things in her life that as a child were scary. And she's facing them now as an adult.
Yeah.
And she, like, I'm, as her mum, I'm going, oh, like, pat you on the back, you know, like, I'm here, I'm cheering you on, I'm your biggest cheerleader, you know, because I see her walking that path and facing her fears and choosing something that's really important for her and setting herself up so that her future self will thank her, you know, down the road.
And what about if, when she comes across those bumps, that she pulled her future self up and aligned with the future self, so all the answers were already there to make it less bumpy?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Aligning with and connecting with the part of you who's already got this sorted can simplify those bumps Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's a really good point
I
because
have,
that
I
helps.
have, yeah, I have definitely done that in the past. I don't do it every time because I don't always expect when the bump is gonna occur. But
You find yourself in it. It's like,
yeah,
ah!
yeah, but I have done that before and it's really powerful. So thank you for the reminder.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah,
great
I'm gonna do
reminder.
that again. Yeah.
Interrupt, Morgan, interrupt.
When I've travelled overseas, the first time I went overseas to America by myself, which was 11 years ago, I got there and I arrived at Mardi Gras, the biggest night in New Orleans, Mardi Gras, as well as the Saints had just won on the night that I arrived. I've never seen so many people in my life, and I was like walking around the street shaking. I could hardly see for all the beads right up to my neck. But I went to bed and no one could wake me for 42 hours. I was with this group of women. And even when I did wake up 42 hours later, I'm like, what the hell is this? What happened to me? I could hardly function. And my higher self said, oh, this is called jet lag, and showed me how to bypass the jet lag. So now when I travel overseas, I merge and align with myself who's already arrived there. So I don't have to experience jet lag. And I never have again.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we can do this stuff. We can do anything. Whatever you can imagine, you can do. So, if we start opening up the possibilities of the things that happen in our imagination, we've used our imagination in the opposite way so far. Our imagination's taken us down the downward spirals, down into the fears and all this sort of stuff. So flip our imaginations into, there's got to be an easier way for me to transform this. What would that be? What would I
Yeah.
imagine? The quickest, easiest neutralisation,
Yes.
place to arrive at.
Yes. I've been doing that because so along with my teeth, I'm also basically the lesson in my life as an umbrella term is my health, and navigating how to become the healthiest version of myself and the most aligned. And it's definitely not been easy. So I have a big fear of the medical system that stems from probably a past life, but also from me as a little girl. And throughout my experiences so far, every single time I have to face the medical system, I have that downward spiral of imagination of, the places my imagination goes is just horrible. But whenever that happens, I implement the practice because, through training myself and through awakening, I realized that, down in those dark places is completely made up from fear. What if I make up what I want from love, And so that's what's been keeping me at a very neutral playing ground throughout all this, because, I have the fear and I have the love, and they're kind of like, I go like this, definitely, but it's kind of leveling me out at a place of neutrality and flow and just seeing where it takes me. But, every time I go down into those fear mindsets, I then bring myself up into the story of what I want to manifest and what I want to create. And there's this, I don't know how to explain it, but there's this thing in me that knows that there's truth in the upper higher realms that I'm creating, because
in the higher frequencies.
In the higher frequencies, because of my imagination, that there's truth in that's actually what's going to happen. And I was unsure until, I went through my removal, because I was really, really scared before getting them taken out. But I held on to this story, into this vision of how I was going to heal after. And I remember I even imagined the pain that I was going to experience. I imagined the pain. I knew what the pain was going to feel like. I was telling myself, this is how the pain is going to feel. It's going to be sore and it's going to be achy, but it's nothing you can't handle. You'll be able to manage it. And, you'll be fine. Like it was just a reminder of this same thing. And the numbing that I got actually lasted ages. And I think that was me and my body and my higher consciousness
Protecting.
choosing to hold on to the numbing as long as it possibly could to create what I wanted, you know. And then once the numbing wore off and the pain started coming again, it was exactly how I imagined it leading up to this whole process. Exactly, like it was quite trippy. Like I was like, this is exactly what I was imagining it to feel like. And then you know, even when I'm down, it's very funny because when you're down in the depths and when I'm in fear, I'm scared I'm going to create that reality. Like I have this
So it's
voice.
fear on fear.
Yeah, it's like this voice of, oh, don't be scared because you're going to manifest it. And then, you know, but it never has. Like throughout this whole thing, even when I've been out there, there's been a whole half a day or a whole day when I've been in fear mindset. But even through that day, the next day I woke up and I still was on the path that I imagined and set up for myself before. So I think there's real power in choosing love over fear, even when you can't do it in the moment. If you set up a structure or a manifestation or something for yourself beforehand, because there's power in that. Like I knew leading up to this how scary it was going to be for me. I knew how, like, what I was going to, how hard it was going to be. And I didn't know it at the time, but me setting up that story of it's going to be fine, you're going to heal super quickly, you know, this is what it's going to look like. Setting that up for myself beforehand allowed me the space to be scared. I really believe that because I don't know what it was going to look like if I was just scared the whole time. And it was probably going to make the journey a lot harder and healing a lot more painful, possibly. I don't know. But yeah.
And that's brilliant, Julia. But there are other ways to do this as well. Like 22 years ago, when I was pregnant, my son's just turned 21. All my girlfriends came round. We got a red ball of wool, and everyone looped it up around their wrists. And then we went through with this, and it was the intent. It was the setting the intention that they were going to support me through a pregnancy. And for the next 9 months, every woman who was there took on a 2-hour shift of having the pregnancy symptoms. And I couldn't believe it. I did the night shift. They all slept at night and I did the night shift. But I was up and down ladders. I mean, I didn't stop anything. And it was so powerful that 2 of them, even though they weren't having sexual relations, were convinced that they were pregnant.
Right.
So they shared all the pregnancy symptoms. And then when I had my son, it was like 1 hour and he was out in the car. But so for you, I would translate that into mum, dad, brother. I'm actually really worried about this procedure I'm going to have done. Would you mind if we did a little ritual that you could energetically support me through these things? Because as we think, I'm going to say to my mum 69 times, oh my God, I'm so scared, I'm so scared. I'm going to say, oh my, to your dad, I'm so scared, I'm really nervous. We're actually reiterating and making. So imagine doing rituals where you don't even have to say a bunch of words. No one's, in that circle, no one said, okay, I'm going to help you with this pregnancy. I'm going to suffer morning sickness every morning when I wake up for the next 3 months. I didn't have any of that. So, there are other things that we can do. We play with it energetically. We translate it down into human form. And I really feel like in the coming months, we're going to start bringing some of these conscious rituals back into action. Like the circles I'm doing, we all go in there, we become one. So anything that's a current issue, and everyone verbalizes it, we're all experiencing it, we shift from that space of oneness. We actually utilize, we become one, we say, okay, we want to deal with betrayal, we shift it in there. And because there's 10 or 12 or 15 of us doing it all at once, you're actually utilizing the power of the grid, the New Earth grid of oneness itself, and it's like energy work on steroids. So I really feel like we're going to start shifting into less talking about drama and shadows and everything, into I'm really scared, I'm about to go and have my teeth done, I could really do with some energetic support. Does everyone mind doing something together to make this an easier experience for me?
That's so exciting.
Yeah, we can do anything. We really can. And this is we're shifting all of our old shit out, all those old programs, which sometimes come with excess energy that needs to be released as well, and fears that need to be broken down in order to shift into the conscious creator self, into empowerment, like really starting to live who we truly are.
And the techniques are doable. They're
Yeah.
very, very doable. They're simple, and they're like, we could, as a family, definitely do that wool thing and energetically hold her and support her
Yeah.
in that time.
Imagine a death in the family and the wife grieving horrendously and the whole family coming and saying, okay, we're going to bring whatever colour string in. We're going to support you through this next whatever time it is, a week, month, a year, or for a set time. We're going to help carry this grief for you, with you. You are not alone.
Yeah.
I mean, that was
I'm
the
gonna do
most
that.
palpable experience. I mean, I wasn't expecting that, but I was up renovating a house and digging gardens and picking up boulders up on scaffolding, 3 days before I had him, because I was so comfortable all day, every day. They're off at work, doing my pregnancy symptoms for me. I mean, it was brilliant. The nights were a pisser, literally. I was
Yeah.
still up 5 or 6 times a night having to go to the toilet. No one did that part for me, but everything else was done for me.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm going to give that a go. Bryn's going through something. My son's going through something at the moment. It's really hard for him, so I'm going to try that. I'm going to get Juliet and Spence together, and we're going to
Whatever
do
his
that
creation is a family program. It's a family pattern. So why wouldn't you all come together as a family and 0 point this out yourselves instead of...
Yes.
And it's not to rob our children of their lessons or their suffering. It's not to rob, because
No.
those lessons can be very, very important too. But I don't believe that we have to suffer or struggle anywhere near as much as we've programmed ourselves to do.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And it's my brain has been saying, and you've just, I feel like this today is answering the stuff that I've been asking for the past week. How can I be there to support my kids in these hard times? What can I, in a practical sense, what can I do to be there for them that takes a little bit of that burden off them, so that they can go through and they learn these lessons. He's learning the lessons. Juliet's learning the lessons. But the suffering doesn't have to be so difficult. And you've just answered that. Like, that's what I'm going to do. As a mum, I can definitely
Yeah.
bring the
So
family together.
we're not giving them answers. We're not doing
Yeah.
it for them. We're not trying to rob them of finding their own way, but they're
Yes.
held.
Yes.
They're energetically held in a space of unconditional love now.
Yeah. Yeah, brilliant. Oh, Morgan, thank you. We're at 1 hour and 8 minutes. It's gone by like that. Thank you so much. Oh my goodness. Today has been, for me personally, a huge help. And really, to the things that are going on right now in our lives. It's very, very helpful, useful information and stuff that I'm going to implement like today. So thank you so much. I really appreciate all of that.
Thank
You were
you.
so generous giving of yourself like that to us.
I think we're moving into that as well. I think we're really all moving into these are my brothers and sisters. These are just other reflections of myself. It's important that I share. And it's tricky because it's like it is that dimensional universal intelligence information. So you just can't give everything away. Like, there has to be some value or whatever there as well, which is why I run the circles or do client things as well. But yeah, this is wonderful. Another wonderful way to do it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right,
Ashley.
thank you. Have a
Ah.
wonderful day, you too.
Yes. Thank you everyone for watching, and we'll see you next week.
Yes. Bye, everyone.